Welcome to another sewing tutorial. My name is Ann-Sophie and I'm the person behind Sewing with Solana, and today I'm teaching you how to sew probably my favorite dress ever. It's the Amelie dress, and to be honest, I have been thinking for a long time if I should release the sewing pattern. I don't know, I love the sewing pattern and this design so much, and yeah, it was just a bit hard making the sewing pattern available for everyone, just because it's such a special piece to me, such a special design to me. But I realized in the last few weeks and in the last few months how much joy it brings me seeing you following my tutorial and recreating my designs. And I also know that so many of you have asked me for the sewing pattern, so I'm really excited today to teach you how to make this. In my opinion, this is the most perfect little black dress. I have made this for so many people already. I have actually had one of my favorite fashion influencers wear it, I made it for her, which was such a big deal for me because I've been following her ever since I had Instagram. And yeah, then I made the dress for her. She posted it wearing it in her Instagram story. Yeah, that was such a big deal for me. And yeah, I've made this dress for so many people. I have made this dress for myself a few times in different colors. I have worn it to weddings, to so many special events, to so many date nights, and also during the day. I don't know, you can probably tell how excited I am for this dress. So I'm gonna link the sewing pattern down below. I printed mine out in A4. If you want to save yourself some time, print it out in A0. If you're in the US, you can print it out in US letter. It's just very important that you set the scale to 100%. And I would always recommend just printing the first page, and then you can measure one of those two boxes here. If they measure correctly, then you can go ahead and print the remaining pages. So I'm going to be using tencel fabric. I still have a big roll of tencel fabric in Germany, so when my parents came to visit, I asked my mom to bring me a bit of that fabric because I love it so much. I love tencel fabric. It feels super nice. It has a bit of a more of a luxurious finish to it. It's made out of natural fibers. It is a very sustainable fabric, but at the same time, it's in my opinion a very elegant fabric. And for the straps, we have two options. Either you can make the straps a bit thicker and just cut them out of your fabric, but what I'm going to do, and what I have been doing always with my Amelie dress, I'm using a thin polyester band. It is not elastic, it is not stretchy. I bought mine at a jewelry making store in Barcelona, but I have linked you something on Instagram from Amazon that's pretty similar. So if you want to, try and get this too, because I feel like those thin straps at dresses make it look so elegant. But if you don't want to have super thin straps, or you just can't get hold of this material, those straps, but you can just order it from Amazon, but completely up to you. Either you make it with this thin polyester band, or you just make it with fabric. There's a pattern piece for the straps that you can cut out. Completely up to you. I'm going to be using this. And what else do you need? You need elastic. So you need elastic. This roll I'm also pretty sure I got off Amazon ages ago. And my elastic is 1 centimeter wide, and we need the elastic for the back of the skirt. I'm going to be making mine in a size small, and I'm going to make my elastic 29 centimeters long. When you download the pattern, you will find a file where there's some general information about the sewing pattern with a size chart, and I will also put in a recommendation for how long your elastic should be. The thing is, I know how long it should be for each size with this elastic because I know how stretchy it is, and this is quite stretchy. Some elastics are really tough and they don't stretch so much, so I would just recommend you, I'm going to remind you later on again, but before we overlock the sides, try the dress on and see if you need to adjust the elastic. It's always better if you try it on before you overlock it because it's quite time intensive opening up an overlock seam again, but I'll remind you later. And then we also need the elastic because we're going to sew it in between the two layers of the caps. So we're going to do a zigzag stitch and place the elastic in between the fabric, the two fabrics, stretch it while we sew, and then it's going to gather the fabric together. Sewing the front and the back of the dress is so easy, so quick, and I don't know, it's my favorite. I think maybe because I've made this dress so many times, I love doing those steps. But when it comes to sewing the caps, I've had days, I'm not gonna lie, where I nearly lost my mind because it is so hard sewing in the elastic the same way for both cups. Like you want them to look as similar as possible, but I don't know why it is so hard. I think it's just because when you sew the elastic and you need to pull the elastic, and it is actually apparently quite hard, for me at least, to pull the elastic evenly and sew exactly the same for each cup. So I just want this to be a little warning for you. If you're making this for the first time and maybe you're struggling with sewing the cup, sewing in the elastic, trust me, I have been there hundreds of times too. Sometimes it has helped me to just stop for the day, come back tomorrow, and then the next day it worked again. But I also don't want to freak you out now. Like, I've made this dress so many times. I love sewing this dress. I love this dress. It is so much fun to sew, but I just want to let you know that maybe you will struggle sewing the cups a bit. If you do, maybe just step away from your sewing machine and come back half an hour later or an hour later. That's just from my experience what has always helped me. But I will teach you how to do everything step by step. When we get to sewing the cups, I'm also going to share some tips with you. And then you also need safety pins, or you could also do it with a loop turner to pull the elastic through the back of the dress. But yeah, we can start now putting the sewing pattern together. I love this dress so much. I think you can tell by how excited I am. I was really excited waking up today knowing I'm going to film this tutorial. Yeah, I love the Amelie dress. I love sewing the Amelie dress. It's the most perfect little black dress. And yeah, I don't think I have to say anything more about this dress. So let's go and let's sew my favorite dress ever. So as you can see on each page you'll find a letter and a number, and all the A's go in one row, A1, A2, A3 and so on, and the B's go in one row, the C's go in one row. And I printed mine out in color, and as you can see each size has a different color but also a different dotted line, so even if you print it out in black and white you'll be able to tell the sizes apart. And now I'm just going to put everything in order very roughly, and then I go page by page gluing everything together. And now we can start gluing the pages together, and I'm just going to start with A1 and then we put A2 on top. And you want to put it right where the dotted line here is, and also this dotted line here needs to line up. And then I'm just taking some tape and taping it together. And then here we have A2 and A3. And then we do the same again. We're gonna put it right where the dotted line here is. This dotted line needs to line up, and then you can also see that those lines line up. And then here we have A1 and B1, so you put B1 on top of A1. And again, you want to put it right where the dotted line here is. And then these dotted lines will also line up. Okay, so you need to have 4 pieces cut out now, and I just want to say one thing. If your bust measurements according to size chart will recommend you a different size than to the rest of your body, you can cut out the bust cups in a different size than the front and the back pattern piece, which is really cool with this dress. But yeah, now what you should have cut out is the bust cups, then the front of the dress and the back of the dress, and then also the sewing pattern piece for the straps. I'm gonna cut my fabric out and also sew it just to show you, but then later on I'm not gonna use the strap that I will sew. I will use the strap with a thin polyester band. But I thought I would just do the first steps anyways, just to teach you how to do it. And now we can start cutting out our fabric. I would recommend now starting cutting out the strap piece. Either what you can do is you can fold the fabric in half and then place the sewing pattern piece on here where it says fold. Or with my fabric, what I can do, I'm just gonna place it on here and then I can make a little cut. And then I'm gonna do it again because I need to cut it out 2 times. And then I can just rip it. And then I can take them, fold them in half, and just make sure that they are as long as they need to be, because I think they will be a bit too long. Yeah. So here we have our 2 long straps. And now I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to fold it. And then again here where it says fold, I'm going to fold it here on the folded edge. You have 2 options now. Either you can do it as me and just pin your sewing pattern onto the fabric, or you can also use chalk and trace the sewing pattern onto your fabric. And here you can see a little notch, so I need to make a little cut here. Just make it 1/2 centimeter deep, because this is where we need to attach the skirt later on. Now I can take all the pins out. So for the back of the dress, we also need to fold the fabric in half again. Always make sure that you fold it really straight. And then I take the back sewing pattern piece, place it onto my fabric and pin it in place again. And next up we cut out the bust cups, and we need to cut them out 4 times. So either you can fold the fabric a few times and cut them out all at once, or I think what I do, let me see. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm first going to cut them out twice and then twice again. So here's the fabric folded, and first I'm going to cut it out like this, and then I think I'll be able to squeeze this on there. And here there's a notch marked again, so I'm going to make a little cut here again. Then I'm going to take the needles out and place the sewing pattern onto the fabric again. Okay, we're gonna start now with the front and with my fabric, with the tencel that I'm using. I have no idea if you can see this on camera, because even in real life this is pretty hard to see. But I have not yet figured out what is officially the good side and what is officially the bad side, or what's the right side, which is the wrong side. They look a little bit differently. And I have just decided for myself, once I started working with tencel, that there's one side that I just prefer better, which is this side. It just looks a little bit smoother in my opinion than this side. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to have the bed side facing me, so the side that I want to be the inside of the dress, and we're going to focus on this part up here. What we're going to do is we're going to fold this down 1 centimeter and then 1 centimeter again, and then we're going to iron it, because that will make it easier to then sew it. So again, the bed side of the fabric is facing me. I'm folding this down 1 centimeter and then 1 centimeter again. And now I'm just gonna go over it with my iron, press it flat. Because from experience, once it's ironed and really flat, it's easier to sew it for me now. And I have my sewing machine set to a straight stitch. The stitch length is at 2.5. With the tension, like each sewing machine is different, depends what fabric you're working with. Just maybe use some scrap fabric to test if the tension is right for your kind of fabric. And I always use Gütermann thread, 100% polyester. And now we can start sewing. And all we're gonna sew now is we're gonna sew across here, and we're gonna sew relatively close to the edge down here. I've actually just decided now, after sewing this, that I'm gonna unpick this again and change the color of my thread, because I realize it's really hard to see when I use black fabric and black sewing thread, and I really want to be able to show you properly how to sew this dress and where to sew and everything. And I think it's gonna make it easier for you if you will be able to see my thread better. So I'm just gonna unpick this again, and I've already put in white thread. I was really torn whether I should do this or not, because I will probably not wear this dress, because I don't like it when the thread is not matching the fabric, especially with this design, because it's a pretty elegant dress, I think. But my goal with this video is not to make something nice for myself to wear. I have this dress already a few times. I want to teach you how to make it, so I will do this now. Okay, I've unpicked it now, and now we can start again. And now we take the back pattern piece, and you need to find the top part. The top, if you would fold this in half here, then you can see that this down here is much wider than this up here. So this is going to be the top of the back piece. And now you need to make sure that the bed side of the fabric, what you want the inside to be, is facing you. And now we're going to fold the top edge 0.5 centimeter down, and we're going to iron it down. So just fold it 0.5 centimeter inwards and press it flat. My elastic is 1 centimeter wide, so I'm gonna fold this now again 1.5 to 2 centimeters. Yeah, pretty much 2 centimeters down. And now again, we're gonna sew relatively close to the edge down here. And now I'm taking my elastic and I'm gonna cut off 29 centimeters. And then I'm putting a safety pin through both ends. And then I'm gonna pull the elastic through the tunnel that we have created. So you just start pushing it through here till it comes out on the other side again. Or actually before it comes out on the other side again. I would first pull it until this end here has reached the edge here. And now I'm going to take the safety pin off. And the reason why I'm going to do this now before I have pulled it out all the way, because now there's no tension on the elastic, so I can take the safety pin off now without having to be worried that it's going to snap back into the tunnel. So I can take this off now and sew this end of the tunnel closed. And now you just want to make sure that the elastic is in here, just that the very edge is still, that the edges are lining up. And I'm moving my needle to the right because I want to sew relatively close to the edge. And then I would recommend you to go over it quite a few times. And now we can get the other end of the elastic out here. Just make sure that the elastic doesn't get twisted along the way. And then pull it out a few extra centimeters, then take the safety pin off and then line up the edge of the elastic with the edge of the fabric here. Make sure that the elastic doesn't snap back. And now I'm going to sew this end closed. So now I have the front of the dress laying in front of me with the good side facing me. And what we're going to do now, we're going to find the little notches that we made. One here and then one on the other side down here. And so here's the good side of the front. And now you want to put the good side of the back. You want them facing each other. And then right where the notch here is, right below, I'm going to start pinning the skirt onto here. And I'm going to pin it from the notch all the way to down here, the front and the back together. And then we're going to do the same for the other side. And now on the other side, here's the little notch. So I'm going to place the back of the dress right where the notch is. So first we're going to sew this side and then this side. I moved my needle back to the middle again, and now we're going to sew with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. And now when we're doing the other side, I'm just going to flip the dress and this time have the front facing me. Just for me it's easier. What you can do now, what I would actually recommend you to do is put the dress on, even though like it's not going to stay up or anything, but you just want to get a feeling whether the elastic is too tight around your waist or if it's way too loose. So just put it on and just put your focus on how the elastic feels around the waist, because if it's too tight or too loose now would be the perfect time and the easiest time to just open those few stitches here up again and either pull the elastic tighter or exchange it for a longer elastic. And now when overlocking, we're gonna overlock from the end of the dress here all the way where we have attached a skirt, but we're gonna keep going until we reach the other end. So we're just gonna sew from here till over here, and then we're gonna do the same on the other side. So here's the front of the dress. Here's where we're gonna attach the bust caps, and we're gonna start overlocking from up here till down here until the end of the dress. Okay, so the main part of the dress is done now. The only thing that needs to be done is we need to hem it, but I would recommend we do that at the very end once we have tried it on to figure out how long we actually want it to be. So what we then need to do is we need to attach the cups to the dress. So it's time to work on our cups. And the first thing you need to do now is you need to take your straps and you need to fold them in half, and you want to make sure that the bad side is facing you, folded in half. And then it depends a bit how wide you want your straps to be. I'm going to sew them now with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. But in the end, I'm actually going to attach my thin straps onto my dress, but I'm going to sew them anyways to show you how to do it. And even if you use this, you still need to sew a strap, but you only need to sew a 10 centimeter wide strap. Just take like a little piece of fabric, make it 5 centimeter wide, 10 centimeters long, because we need to create like a little loop that we're going to attach to the side here where we have made the little notch here. So either if you make the straps, just make the 2 long straps, and then you can cut off a little bit at each of the ends once you have flipped them the other way around. I'm going to show you later on. Or if you're going to use them, then just cut yourself an extra 10 centimeter long piece that's 5 centimeters wide, and also fold it in half and sew with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. And then if you're using a loop turner, you can just sew one of the ends here closed. So just make sure the needle is down and then sew this end closed. So it's going to look like this. And now you can cut off some of that extra seam allowance. And then I'm taking my loop turner and I'm pushing it through the open end here. And then I'm pushing it through the fabric right below where we have sewn it closed. And then you're going to do exactly the same to your other strap. And then you take your measuring tape and you cut 5 centimeters off. And you're going to cut them off of both of the straps, and make sure you cut it off where the strap is open and not the end where we have sewn it closed, because this you want the end of the long strap to be, just because it looks like a nice and clean finish. But yeah, you're going to repeat this exact step for the other strap as well. And let's say you want to use a thin polyester band like I will. Just cut off a piece that's around 10 centimeters long and 5 centimeters wide. And you're also going to fold it with the good side facing you in half, and then sew with a 1 centimeter seam allowance from here to here away from the folded edge. And again, I'm cutting some of that extra seam allowance off. And now I'm just going to fold it in half and then cut it in half. So I have 2 little straps that have the same length. And now you take 2 of your cups and you're going to make sure that the 2 good sides are facing each other. And here where the notches are, we're going to take... And here where the notches are, we're going to take one of our short little things that we made, and I have ironed mine, and then you're going to fold them in half, because then here we will have a loop that we can then pull our straps through when we tie the dress. And this you want to place right below the notch here. And you sandwich it in between. If you want to, you can pin it in place. And what we're going to do is we're going to start sewing here, then we're going to sew over the loop that we will sew in here. Then we go up here, and then here in the corner is where we're going to attach the strap, and then we're going to sew down here. So let me just go and iron this strap here. So here's the good end of the strap that looks super nice, and here's the open end. So we're going to take the open end, and then you're going to put it right where the corner here is. You can either pin everything in place, or you can just stop while sewing and then put it where it needs to go. Okay, so we're gonna start sewing here. I would recommend going over here a few times, then we sew across here. Then I would also recommend going over the strap up here twice, and then we finish here. So this part down here we're gonna leave open. And then make sure your needle is down, then you can lift the foot and move the fabric. And then same here, make sure the needle is down. Go over the strap a few times. Make sure the needle is down again. And then what you can do is, or what you actually should do, you should cut this corner here off. And then here where we have sewn a curved line, I would also recommend you cutting a little bit of the seam allowance away, just because that's going to make it look nicer when we flip it the other way around, because then there will be a bit less fabric built up. And now we can pull on the strap here, we can make sure that this is out, and now we go over to the iron and press it flat. So I have cut off a long strap of the polyester band here. I made it 130 centimeters long. And basically what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do exactly the same things. And now, because I won't be able to pin this onto here because it's so thin, so I'm just gonna start sewing here, go over here twice, sew along here, and then once I come close to the corner on top here, I'm just gonna stop sewing for a second and put this in between my two layers of fabric, and then I'm gonna sew over it a few times. The one tip I can give you now is I would adjust the length down to 2, because when you're gonna sew in the strap and your stitch length is too high, it won't be properly sewn into, like, in between the two layers of fabric, like it's just gonna come out again. And yeah, if you just have the stitch length closer together, this is gonna be more secure in between. So now the needle is down, I'm gonna move the fabric, and then I'm gonna take my strap, place it in between my two layers of fabric, and push it right where the needle is of the sewing machine. And then I'm gonna go over it a few times. And now I'll just continue sewing. And now I would recommend you to not hold onto the strap here, just hold onto the fabric and then pull on your strap really hard to really make sure the strap is sewn in properly and is not gonna come undone again when you wear the dress. So really pull on it really, really hard. And that is looking really good. So now it's time to sew in the elastic, which in my opinion is a bit like the most trickiest part about making this dress. But I mean, if it doesn't work the first time, we're just gonna open it up again and we're gonna do it again. So first we need to cut off the elastic, then we need to change some settings of our sewing machine because we want to do it with a zigzag stitch. Okay, so my sewing machine is set to a zigzag stitch. My length I put to 2.5 and then my width I put to 5. And now you take your elastic, mine is 13 centimeters long. And you're gonna sew it in between the two layers of fabric from here to here. So first you need to place it in between here. And then you push it to the top, like in the corner and then to the top. And first we're gonna do some front and back stitching just over here at the beginning without stretching it yet, just because we really want to attach the elastic on here. So then once we start pulling, it's not gonna snap back. And also the more you pull your elastic, the more this will be gathered together. So I would just recommend you just do this now. See how you like how it looks. Maybe you want to undo it again, maybe pull it more, maybe pull it less. Also very much depends how stretchy your elastic is. My elastic is super stretchy, so I can pull on it quite a lot. But yeah, now we're just going to do some front and back stitching. And now once the needle is down, I can grab my elastic here, pull it out, and I'm just gonna give it a go now. So this is what it looks like now. As you can see, also like the tension is really good. I'm actually gonna change my sewing thread now back to black, just because I wanna show you how it looks like when it's done properly, because I feel like it doesn't look so nice with the white stitching. Okay, so I take my elastic again, put it up here, in between, go over it a few times without stretching the elastic. Make sure the needle is down. And now I stretch the elastic. Cute. So here is what it looks like. And now we need to gather the fabric together below here. So we're gonna do a long stitch, and it's important that you don't front and back stitch, and we're just gonna start here till over here. So I put my length to 4 and then I'm moving my needle to the right. And again, important that you don't front and back stitch. And we don't have to sew until the very end. You can leave a few centimeters. Then we pull some extra elastic, change the length back to 2.5, move the needle back to the middle. And now we can attach it to the dress. So here we have the front of the dress. And this is the good side, here's the bad side. And now it's important that this up here and this here, that they're lining up perfectly. Just because if one is a bit higher, one is a bit lower, it's not going to look as nice. So just try and line them up as perfectly as you can. It is a bit hard getting it perfect just because there's so many layers of fabric plus elastic. So it's normal if it moves around a couple millimeters. Just try as hard as you can. So once this is attached here, then we go over here where we have earlier overlocked the side, and we attach the end here. And then you're gonna leave around 1.5 centimeters from here to where you will attach the cups. So here's the cup, and then here's the side, and there's 1.5 centimeters, because later on we're gonna fold this inside, but I'm gonna explain this to you later. And now we need to gather the fabric and pin it onto the front of the dress. So you need to gather it because right now it is bigger. And I would just recommend you to spread the gathers equally across. The first few centimeters, I'm not going to gather any fabric. And then once we get to here, just spread it out equally. You can stick some needles in it. So this is what it looks like now. As you can see, this is the long stitch that we did. And then here is the normal one. And now we have to do exactly the same to the other bust cup. Again, I'm moving my needle to the right, have a long stitch length. And now I pin it here together, try to make them line up as perfectly as possible. This time I'm gonna flip the inside of the dress facing me. This just makes it a bit easier for me. Like the other time I sewed with the cup facing me, but this time I'm gonna do it the other way around because I always find it easiest to start sewing at the top here and not on the side. But now we're pinning this again 1.5 centimeters from this edge away. Roughly 1.5 centimeters, something between 1 to 2 centimeters. And now we gather the fabric together. And then I changed my stitch length back to 2.5 and moved my needle back to the middle again. Sometimes because there's so many layers of fabric plus the elastic, I find it helpful to take like a seam opener, or sometimes I take my tweezers that I usually use for my overlock machine and help push the fabric a little bit. Okay, and so now when we overlock it, first we overlock from here to up here, which is here. So one side that we have just sewn, and then we do the same for the other cup part. So from here to here. And now we take our big needle here. I always use this needle to hide my overlock part. So I push it through here. Then I take the end, push it through the hole, pull it out here, and then we can cut the rest off. So now we're nearly finished. There's 2 steps left to do, so we need to hem it. And then there's also the part where we left 1.5 centimeters to attach the cup from the side here. And what we're gonna do is, we're gonna first, when you have the cup, when you fold the cup up, this automatically flips down and you want it to be down, and then you fold it towards the inside. And now we're gonna start sewing here where we have attached the back, and sew a line from here to up here. I think it's easier once I have sewn it with my white thread. But again, so we have right now the good side of the front facing us. And first we flip this down, then we fold it towards the inside, and then we're gonna start sewing here till up here. And then we do exactly the same on the other side. This time I always find it best if I have the outside facing me, because it helps me make sure that it's gonna look nice. So last time I started down here and sewed up. This time I'm starting up here and sewing down. So here is what it looks like on one side, and then here is what it looks like on the other side. The last step now is to try on your dress to figure out how long or short you want your dress to be. I like my dresses to be quite short, so I'm gonna fold mine up 2 centimeters and 2 centimeters again. I'm gonna iron mine, then sew it, and yeah, then I'm going to show you what mine looks like finished. And now when hemming the dress, you want the inside of the dress facing you. And then I'm going to fold mine 2 centimeters up and iron it all the way around. And this time you want to sew the side seam towards the front. Now I would recommend you starting at the back of the dress, and I'm just gonna adjust my stitch length to 3, and we're just gonna sew in one full circle now. We are finished now with our Amelie dress. I love this dress so much. I can't wait to put it on and show it to you. So in a few seconds you'll see me wearing it. And I have just quickly sewn the front and the back again, just because I wanted the dress to be sewn with black sewing thread. But then I just took the caps, like the bust part of the dress that we've sewn together, and just quickly attached it to this dress. Yeah, I'm so excited to put it on. Thank you so much if you've followed the tutorials. Thank you if you've purchased the sewing pattern. If there's any steps that were unclear, just let me a message or leave a comment and we'll figure it out together. And I really hope I see you at my next sewing tutorial again. Goodbye.